Grade teachers, I'm really looking forward to working with you all today. Today we're going to be doing a third grade data walk in professional learning. I'm going to give everyone about 1 more minute to join. I'm very eager to get to know you all today and dive a little bit deeper into our school's data. And I think that's just about everyone. So again, if I'll kind of keep an eye on if anyone else pops in. I'm going to go ahead and look at our icebreaker. Before we do that, please fill in the Google Forms so that you can get credit for being here today. And I always recommend to teachers, administration, our literacy coaches to do a connection before content. So today's connection before content, before we dive into the data that we're going to look at today, I would like you to type in to the chat feature the most recent book that you've read. I'm always trying to read new books. I'm currently reading The Paris Apartment, so if you're looking for a good, thrilling book, I would definitely recommend that one. So again, if you are just joining, make sure you fill in the Google form attendance so that you get credit for being here today. And our connection before content is to type in the chat the most recent book that you've read. It could be a school-related book. It could be a book that you read for pleasure, the most recent book that you have read. I'm seeing some good titles. I'm going to have to add these to my to be read. Ooh, I love it. These are so awesome. Looks great. Go ahead and keep typing those in, and I'm going to keep moving along in our slides as you guys type in your most recent book that you have read. On today's agenda, we're going to start like we just did with the connection before content, kind of get to know one another, get some good reads in there as well. Then we're going to be looking at our own school's data, and we're going to be using breakout rooms to collaborate and reflect on a skill that we need to promote based on the data that we look at. So I will be asking you, I really appreciate your willingness to participate and engage in these powerful conversations, and I really want you to reflect on your practices in your classroom so that this professional development is meaningful to you. I understand, we are on Zoom. However, try to keep your videos on so that we can see those faces. Obviously, if you need to step out for a second, totally understand. But again, I think that this will be most beneficial to you and your class and your team if we leave those videos on and really collaborate through our conversations. You may feel free to unmute yourself throughout today, or you can use the chat feature, whichever one is easiest for you. After we look at our school's data, we're going to look at our next steps. What can we do? We're going to look at some research-based strategies that promote this focus. And then we'll take a break, and then it will be our practice, implementation, and our takeaways, and then it will be time for our lunch. So as you can see here, we're just going to dive right into our district data. This is the reading assessment for Apple Hill District. And I know that we are all third grade teachers here, so take a close look at your grade level, third grade. And I want you to kind of look through the trends that you see. You will be going out into your breakout rooms in just a second, but before you do that, I just want to go through this data with you so that you can see and understand what you're looking at. So the reading assessment is a norm reference, and it's administered 3 times a year to measure students' reading comprehension. This shows grades 1 through 5 at our school. And as we focus on grade 3, you can see that 62% in the green were on benchmark. And then the 41% were below benchmark, is that orange color that you see. Overall, as we look at grades 1 through 5, it stayed pretty consistent throughout our grades. Obviously, we were at the highest in benchmark in grade 1. And it went up a little bit below benchmark after grade 1. So we went from that 30 in first grade, and we went up to 41 below benchmark in second grade. And then it kind of stays pretty consistent. We do obviously see some fluctuating numbers, but overall, I'm pretty happy with this. Our goal is to close those learning gaps and move some of those orange kiddos over to green. I want you to think about some of the learning gaps that you see in your class as you reflect on your data. And again, we'll look at that a little bit more closer today. But I want you to reflect on what you notice or wonder about in your breakout room. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, maybe about 3 minutes in your breakout rooms, just to kind of think about what you're talking about within your PLCs. What are you noticing about these scores? What learning gaps do you think are most common in your class? And you are going to be put with some team members that you don't always necessarily work with throughout our district. And I think that's a good opportunity to collaborate and talk about some strategies that you're doing in your schools. So I'm going to go ahead and put you in your breakout rooms, and I will be popping in and out. So if you see me, just keep on with those conversations. I'll give you about 3 minutes. All right, I think that is about everyone back. I heard some really great reflections on these. Obviously, we don't see the specific domains, but I'm going to move over to the next slide. This is Apple Hill District. So our district compared to the state of Ohio. This is the performance on the third grade Ohio ELA test. This data shows the performance on the third grade Ohio ELA test in comparison to our school. Now, the state ELA test is a criterion referenced, and it's administered only at the end of each year, and it's through grades 3 through 8. The test is based on Ohio's learning standards and reports scores in the categories reading informational text, reading literary text, and writing. And as you can see, Ohio's percent proficient is 60%, and we are at 62. So I think that's a celebration in and of itself. We had about the same average scale score. And then the percent at each performance level is shown for the reading informational text, reading literary text, and writing. And I have highlighted our goal for today, which is reading informational text. In the red is below proficient. So if we look at our Apple Hill district, below proficient in reading informational text was 21%. So that's right here. The RI below proficient is 21. At or near proficient is 37%. And then above proficient for reading informational text was 41%. And then if we look below to reading literary and writing. Today, our item analysis is going to just be focusing on the reading informational text. So if you look at the reading informational text from our district, from Apple Hill to Ohio, overall, again, our numbers stayed pretty consistent with 21 at Apple Hill and 27 across Ohio. And then we actually have 41% above proficient, and Ohio has 38. So again, I'm going to put you with the same breakout rooms, and I want you to reflect on what you notice or wonder about in your breakout rooms, what concerns might you have, what wonderings, celebrations, or things that just are on your mind. I'll leave this data up for you to reflect on in your breakout room, so I'll give you another 3 minutes. All right, and I think we're all back. So again, thank you again for those collaborative conversations. Now, across the schools in grade 3, so this is all of third grade, we have Apple Hill at the top, and then we have compared it to some other schools around the district. And let's see, Brayburn Elementary was 75% proficient. Cortland was 49%, and Darcy Elementary School was 66% proficient. So I just wanted to give this a little bit for you guys to look at as well and reflect on what you notice or wonder again in your breakout rooms. I'll give you about 2 minutes this time. All right, thank you again for those collaborative conversations. I know that really sets a good foundation for the rest of our PD today together. And this is the content statements broken down by third grade test results. And this is the item number with the content statement and the percent incorrect, percent of 1 point earned, or if possible, 2 points. What celebrations or concerns do you have when you look at these content statement scores? So this is a lot to look at, but if you look at the first one, number 8, determine the meaning of general academic and domain-specific words and phrases in a text relevant to a grade 3 topic or subject area. So that was the first one that I looked at, and the percent incorrect was only 17%, and 1%, percent at 1 point earned was 83%, which I thought was actually a really great celebration. Some of those academic and domain specific words can be very challenging for students. And then the same thing for number 9 of general academic and domain specific words and phrases was 76% got the 1 point earned. And it says NA because there was not 2 points possible. So I noticed a lot of celebrations, but then in at the other hand, I do see some things that we need to really focus in on, and specifically those circled content statements. What do those make you think of? So if you look at 12 and 13, compare and contrast the most important points and key details presented in 2 texts on the same topic. So if you look at the first one, number 12, there was 2 points possible. 71% had it incorrect. 21% earned 1 point, and 7% had the 2 points earned. For number 13, 82% had it incorrect. 18% had the 1 point earned, and that one for number 13 was not applicable for a 2 point question. What do those circled statements make you think of? And this time you can just put it in the chat. So if you look at 12 and 13, what do you think of when you are teaching 3rd grade? Yeah, for sure. Someone just put in like paired passages, the 3rd grade reading guarantee test. Yeah, for sure. We see that all the time when they're given 2 passages and they have to compare and contrast. And typically what we know as 3rd grade teachers is that one of those passages is probably going to be an informational text. So today I really wanted to focus on those specific domains. We need to focus on comparing and contrasting between 2 texts to improve comprehension. According to Santoro, reading informational text provides students with a language of thought, foundational vocabulary that can be connected to other words, and technical content or subject area understanding that frames how readers see themselves and the world. So clearly we know that reading informational text is important and critical in 3rd grade. And it leads to so much more than comprehension. We see that foundational vocabulary, them having to think, using their language, and looking back at the text evidence. So today, again, our item analysis is reading informational text. Our specific area of need that we're going to look at today is comprehension. And by the end of today's professional development opportunity, our teachers will have effective research-based strategies that you can implement within your classroom to promote comprehension in informational text. Again, please feel free to contact me with any questions as we move forward to these next steps. And you can always email me with any questions if you need some resources, or you can always raise your hand on Zoom and I will be happy to answer your questions. So what strategies can we teach our 3rd grade students to better comprehend informational text? What strategies do you already use? Again, you can raise your hand or you can use the chat box. What strategies do we already use for comprehending informational text? Good. Close reading, definitely. Looking closely at the text I always say, like a reading detective. Underlining keywords for sure. Good. Graphic organizers. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. We do this. We teach strategies to our 3rd grade students to understand informational text. So, like you guys were saying, we can build comprehension and reading informational text by close reading strategies, graphic organizers. You guys had mentioned that. Collaborative classroom discussions, text structure. But today we're going to focus actually on using graphic organizers to support comprehension and reading informational text. And some teachers might be thinking, why? Why is this important? McKnight, as cited in Kernaman and Zufridi stated that graphic organizers have proven to be powerful teaching and learning tools that can help students grasp new concepts and save valuable time for teachers. They provide a strong visual picture for students and support their ability to learn facts, information, and new terms. Similarly, according to Ermis 2008, graphic organizers were found to positively affect the comprehension of the reading selections that were factual or informative in nature. So I thought that kind of answered our why are we looking more into this. If we want to close the below benchmark students, we can use this research-based strategy to support that comprehension, to support that powerful teaching and using those tools that we know that we have within our district. And then some of you might think, well, when am I supposed to do this? I know we always hear, busy teachers saying, when do we fit this in our schedule? You're already doing this in your classrooms. And I want you to keep in mind that we have resources at Apple Hill that provides you to begin with those small steps. I want you to begin with the baby steps and then branch out. You can have students practice while at the teacher table. Pool paired passages on Newsela. You have access to Newsela where they already have paired passages for you. ReadWorks has paired passages for you with informational text, and Reading A to Z, which you can assign on the students' devices. One thing I really like about Newsela is it is all informational text. It is all nonfiction articles, and you can really search things that interest the students that they'll be interested to read about. And our Making Meaning curriculum even has related text that our district could purchase. So there's a book that you can compare it with and use Venn diagrams with or graphic organizers with. Making Meaning even has graphic organizers within the student response book, so I really encourage you to use those. We see on this visual that there's a character web for Grace. The story is Boundless Grace, and you're using a character web to describe and make inferences based on the type of adjectives that we can use to describe the character Grace. In this picture, these are some of the main texts in our program. So again, you could see right here, Boundless Grace. It's grade 3, lesson week 3. Here's other books that go along with it. So you could read, if you're reading Miss Nelson is Missing, Miss Nelson is Back is an alternative assessment or an alternative book that you could read with it. Cherries and Cherry Pits, that's a fiction story. Nonfiction story would be Creatures of Earth, Sea, and Sky by Georgia Hurd, and then you could compare and contrast using the graphic organizers. All right, so that was a lot of information at once. Now that we have the strategy and we're able to reflect on our school data, I want you to just take a minute to decompress, grab a snack, use the restroom, and get a drink. Apple Hill has also provided some snacks and beverages and coffee for you, so I encourage you to go grab some of those treats for you, and please be prompt and ready to go when the timer goes off. See you in 10. All right, welcome back, third grade teachers. Are you ready to dive a little bit deeper into the many uses of graphic organizers and why we can use them to support our comprehension? Thank you for coming back quickly and turning on those videos. So this is actually a book that I would recommend, and I know that we have a copy within Apple Hill, so if you would like to borrow it, I can definitely let you have this book for a little. It has all the graphic organizers that you might need to make a quick copy of. So according to Belanca, graphic organizers help in the classroom for many reasons. There's many uses that you could use graphic organizers with. You could use them to facilitate cooperative learning and discussions, have students develop their thinking and problem-solving skills, organization, comprehension, and graphic organizers can reduce cognitive demands by providing a framework for students to create a visual representation of the most significant information in a text, which enhances the comprehension. So I like how they said the most significant information in a text. Those are those key details that we want to work on. Most of you are very familiar and use these very often in your classrooms, but this is a KWL chart. And according to Santoro in 2016, KWL charts, so what they know about a specific topic, what they wonder about a specific topic, and what they learned. These provide consistent organizational framework for the comprehension of informational text by incorporating strategies, for example, predictions, retelling important key details or main ideas, questioning and wondering, active engagement, and it also sets a purpose for reading. So, for example, if you're reading informational text about deserts, you're going to fill out that what I already know about deserts and then what you wonder about deserts. So if a student writes that they wonder how hot a desert can get, that's what they're going to be thinking about as you're reading the story, maybe as they're reading the story. It sets a purpose for finding that answer. If they haven't found the answer yet, or the book doesn't answer that question, you can take that opportunity to research that with them and support that engagement piece where they want to know about something, and you can support that by using other resources. At the end of the story, they then can record all of the facts that they learned. I really like KWL charts. I think it really does make the students accountable for their learning. And we talk about too in third grade when students find text evidence when the author tells them directly, maybe answers to their questions, that is given to them directly, but sometimes it's indirectly too. So we talk about that as well. How many of you have used a KWL chart before? Yeah, absolutely. I think about everyone here has used one for sure. Great. So differentiated graphic organizers, they can be easily adapted to your students' needs. As students are filling in the charts, you can prompt students with more targeted questioning about the topic. So if you want a student to say, to write something that they're wondering about, you could say, have you ever been to the desert? And it kind of activates background knowledge. Or have you ever been to a place that has sand on it before? Or what type of animals might you see in a place that's a desert or a really hot place? So you can kind of prompt those questions and get them thinking. You could have students periodically stop and have them stop or jot or notice and wonder. So you can say, okay, time to stop reading. Let's jot something down. Or, what do you notice when I read this part of the text? What do you wonder as I read this part of the text? If students don't have the words or don't know how to spell the words, they can always draw pictures. Again, asking questions like, what does that make you think of? Did the story answer your questions? Or just have students verbalize what they know, wonder, or learned. So there's many different ways that you can differentiate graphic organizers really to support any student's learning needs. Many of you also have seen these as well, Venn diagrams, and I did put back up our focus. So we need to focus on comparing and contrasting the most important points and key details presented in two texts on the same topic. So often students have to pull text evidence from passages, paired text to support their reasoning. Like I said earlier, one of those paired passages is going to be informational text. If your students lack background knowledge or vocabulary skills on informational text, it can be difficult for those students to comprehend the story. But if we provide students with a Venn diagram and put passage 1, passage 2, and then both, we are automatically providing them with a strategy to organize their thinking and pull from the text evidence. Also, Venn diagrams assist in making comparisons between the relationship and differences between concepts, key details, or important points using two or more overlapping circles. So again, that's another way to differentiate or provide enrichment for students who might be ready for another circle where they're comparing 3 different stories or characters or key details. You could also just take one away. Maybe you're only focusing on one passage. Just give them one circle for that one day. When they're reading the next passage, add in the next circle so that it's not too overwhelming. and then show them how do they overlap. What do you notice about both of the passages? So you really can break it apart into more digestible bites for students if they need that. All right, here's a little bit of comic relief as well. But wait, there's more. During the pre-writing stage, graphic organizers can serve as a brainstorming tool to activate prior knowledge and to connect what students know with new information. During the reading stage, graphic organizers can help students arrange pertinent information, facilitating learning by highlighting links among concepts. In the post-reading stage, graphic organizers can be used to assess comprehension, recall information, summarize main ideas, and maintain the content learned. So really, graphic organizers can support a lot during the writing and reading stages, before, during, and after reading. And I think it's important to understand and realize that we are having students highlight those links when we use graphic organizers. Here are some other graphic organizers that I have seen teachers and instructional coaches, literacy coaches use. The T-chart is another really popular one I've seen throughout our school. Author's purpose graphic organizers. So the author's purpose, why did the author want to write this story? And give me the text evidence to support your reasoning. A lot of the times, and I've heard this from many third grade teachers, is the students think that they know the answer based on their background knowledge. However, when they go to take that test back again in the fall, they want to know, can they pull it from the text? Where did you get that information? And can you support it with reasons from the text? When you look at figure 1, there's many different types of graphic organizers. Starting from the top down approach, conceptual, sequential, putting it in order, or kind of like a cycle. Another one that I have seen a lot before is the Freyer model, where you put your main idea, your thesis in the middle, and give some reasons and explanations or text evidence to support your main idea and your conclusion. And then the last one, obviously, is a story map. What's the setting, characters, and beginning, middle, and end. I've seen a lot of students a lot of teachers, as I've gone around in our school. I've even seen teachers make this more engaging by being transferred into your online learning management system, like Seesaw, Google Classroom, Schoology. Students can create those text boxes, or again, to differentiate, you can add that speech to text feature where the students are talking into their device and organizing it based on whatever chart you're using. So send in the chat, how or have you seen different ways to differentiate these types of graphic organizers for your own learners? How can these be differentiated to your learners? And go ahead and send it in the chat. Oh, yeah, that's an awesome idea. You can use you can even use Post-it notes. Yeah, like if you put up the story map on your board, everyone grab a Post-it note and write the setting and go, stick it on the board, right? Good, and it might just be scribing for your students too. Tell me what evidence came from passage 1. Where did that come from? Can you highlight it in the passage and I will write it down? Yeah, I think you guys are on the right track for sure. This is looking good. You can keep sending those if you are in the middle of typing. Now, I want you to keep these graphic organizers in mind. Here are some student examples that I'm going to show you next. Again, we see kind of like a Freyer model in the first one. It looks like they were doing maybe a narrative. They had to dig up items. If we bury something and wait a long time, you would find nothing. Maybe they were talking about some sort of museum that they were at. The middle one is more like that character web that we talked about a little bit earlier. And they transferred it over into their writing. So from that web graphic organizer, first organize your thoughts, then put it into a paragraph form. And then the last one is that life cycle of a penguin. Help them organize their thoughts. Any noticing, any wonderings that you see? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can even see like some of them have added drawings too. It looks like in the life cycle of the penguin they did draw, but then they added some pictures. Same thing like the first one. Mm-hmm. Good. Switching gears a little bit, we all know we have to take the third grade reading guarantee test. It's coming up at the end of April, so I'm eager to look back at this data. This sample problem was found on Ohio's practice air testing for third grade. This is to be done in the 90-minute allotted time for the test. And this is in addition to the multiple choice questions that the students have to answer. So typically by the time students get to this writing problem, they look at this paragraph and they automatically don't know where to begin. So this is a lot of information to even just read, let alone draft up, edit, and write more than one paragraph covering 2 passages. Students need to be taught strategies to comprehend the text and pull evidence from those texts. It forces students to answer both questions and pull from both passages. It helps them to organize their thoughts. So if you look at what the question is asking you, that came from 2 passages. And I actually put these 2 passages at your seat for you. You have the 2 passages. One is a fiction, one is a nonfiction, so that, one of them is an informational text. So whether you're helping birds in the wild or keeping them as pets, they require special attention and care. In your own words, write a multi-paragraph. Again, we have to teach the students, what does a multi-paragraph response look like? What does it mean? So they have to write a multi-paragraph response that explains why birds are different than other animals and describe the most important things to keep in mind when caring for them. Be sure to include information about the special attention and care that they require. Your response must be based on ideas and information that can be found in both passages. Then it says, as you write your response, use your own words to develop a controlling idea, use evidence to support your idea, and use clear language to express ideas about your topic by making connections to your evidence. Be sure to include an introduction, organized paragraphs, grammar, structure, mechanics, and a conclusion. Make sure it's a multi-paragraph response. So for any 8 or 9-year-old, this is a lot of information. They look at this, some of them might even struggle reading multi-paragraph or understanding what it means. So when we provide students with these graphic organizers, this is what the T chart might look like. In the first part of the T, the first part that we have to answer is, why are they different? Why are birds different from other animals? The next question that we have to answer is caring for birds. So when we use things that help students cite, like in passage 1, we're forcing them to go pull from passage 1. Where in passage 1 does it say that birds are different? Or saying like, according to passage 2, birds are different from other animals because. And then that's not all, because they have to also pull from both passages about caring for birds. So again, in passage 1, it talks about blank when caring for birds. And according to passage 2, birds need what in order to be taken care of properly. So as you can see here, this chart breaks it up for you. And even as an adult, look at how much more organized it is and more comprehensible to look at it in smaller pieces like this. Okay, so now I want you to try. So at your table, you have both passages, one of which is an informational text and a printed T-chart. I want you to work with your table to complete the chart. And remember, our focus is to compare and contrast the most important points and key details presented in the 2 texts on birds. So work with your partners, work with your groups. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns, but try to fill in that chart and see how many different points or key points, main ideas that you can pull from both texts. I will give you about 10 minutes. All right, looks like we're about wrapping up. Thank you for your participation. And I heard a lot of great conversations while I was jumping in and out of your groups. So thank you for that. All right, as we move forward, we might be thinking like, wow, that was a lot of information. We looked at the data. We looked at the research-based evidence that proves graphic organizers help with comprehension. And now we might be thinking like, now what? It is a lot of information to take in. You are already doing these strategies to support your students' learning needs, but I want you to be consistent and explicitly model and teach this skill. So when you model it, the kids will start to do it. If you are consistent in teaching this skill, it will seem much more effective. I'd be happy to provide you with some grade level graphic organizers or come in and model a lesson with your class with 2 texts or 2 passages. Be patient and start small. Use what you already have. Use those graphic organizers within Making Meaning. Remember, this could look different for you based on your grade or your class or your learners. You know your class best, so adapt and differentiate as needed. Dive deeper into your class data. What area does your class need the most support in? Is it the reading informational text? As a school, that was our focus, but I want you to dive deeper into your students in your class and provide opportunities for scaffolding and support. You can model this lesson as whole group and then pull it back together for your small group or those students who might need extra support, and practice with informational texts that interest your students. So if they really like to read about cats, I can give you some really funny novellas on cats that wear sunglasses. It really makes them feel like it is something they want to read about, which definitely helps with engagement. And that's about all I have for you today. So I know that was a lot. Thank you again for your participation. I appreciate you all being here, participating, and taking the time to reflect on your students' needs. I am excited to see how the strategy works within your classrooms to promote reading comprehension within informational text. Please use me as a resource if you need anything. If you could take about 2 minutes to complete this exit slip, that would really be helpful as we move forward. And if you have any more specific needs that you need, that would be the place to go ahead and type that in. And I look forward to seeing you in the fall and reflecting on this domain after the strategy has been implemented within your class. And we will closely examine the reading informational text and try to get some of the students to make some gains. So again, our goal is to get these students either from red to yellow in reading informational text or from yellow to blue to bump up those kids and close those reading gaps. So again, if you need anything else, please let me know. I'm here to support you and your students if you need some graphic organizers. I have so many. If you want to borrow the books that I have, please feel free. Reach out to me whenever you need it. But again, really thank you so much for coming, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day today at your PD. And here are my resources. Thank you.